Yvonne Blomer is an award-winning poet and author of the critically acclaimed travel memoir, Sugar Ride, Cycling from Hanoi to Kuala Lumpur. Her most recent book of poetry is As If a Raven. She works as an editor, teacher, and mentor in poetry and memoir. Yvonne served as the City of Victoria Poet Laureate from 2015 to 2018. In 2017, she edited the anthology Refugium, Poems for the Pacific, Caitlin Press. And this year, Sweetwater, Poems for the Watershed, was released. Yvonne lives, works, and raises her family on the traditional territories of the Saanich, Songhees, Esquimalt peoples of the Coast Salish Nation.
I'm really delighted to be here tonight and to be a part of Poets Corner with Sarah DeLeo. Hi, Sarah. And the two special guests, Tanis MacDonald and Jenna Butler. So I'm going to do a slightly different reading. So we're going to read a little bit of Sweetwater, but Jenna, Tanis, and I are also writing about women and walking in cities. And so we're going to blend our voices a little bit tonight and co-read pieces that Tanis has written and pieces that Jenna and I have written together. As the editor, I don't usually include my own work in the anthologies I edit. It feels too awkward for me to do that. But for tonight, I thought I'd read a couple of watery ghazals. And then Tanis and Jenna will read their poems in the anthology, and then we'll move into other things. Tanis's book, Mobile, it touches on women and walking in the city of Toronto. And Jenna and I have been working on a project for just over a year titled Desire Paths, Field Notes on Land and Body, about where women walk and where they're stopped and where they want to go. So let's start with some watery things. So the ghazal, I'm starting with ghazals, and Jenna and I co-wrote ghazals, so ghazals are going to come up again later. So the ghazal is a leaping, non-narrative form of poetry borrowed into North America from Persia, but hugely altered. In a sense, it's been colonized. The poems are numbered, repetitions and image occur throughout, and often the poet speaks to him or herself. In its closer to original form, it has a formal rhyme and repetition that many poets drop. Poets such as Adrian Rich, Patrick Lane, P.K. Page, and John Thompson brought it here in the 1970s. So here are two ghazals from a chapbook titled Elegies for Earth. 1. In the middle of the end, you begin to make lists again. Sea stars, coral, bull kelp, the American avocet. On a bicycle riding uphill among trees, lost or close to, you plot a route to coast, light through leaves, Morse code that could be expressive. Something about speed and time, loss or treads rumble on road. You tire of marring the earth, rust caught in the scent of spring, rot. Somewhere substance, a life form to grip. The moon evaporates with the tide, rain and you thirsty for the green dark. If the crow steals the murder weapon, if the bicycle is no longer enough, at the top of your lungs, sing, dew on the hummingbird's wing. 3. You count species. Here, a wood thrush, population down 70%. Or just your pulse. An anthem rings in your head, a song of triumph. Music makes you long for the past. Is there a present? Cretaceous period, Anthropocene, you stand on pedals to coast. Come on, fess up. You are driving your car. You are caught in the bars of a song, the rain, the many goodbyes, pink lilies under big leaf maples, silent tree frogs, who you are. Science, theory, natural selection, Western grebe, loon, auk. Without sea stars, mussels dominate. Without birds, so we're going to move now. Thank you. Move now into this. Thank you. Into this beautiful book, Sweetwater, cover designed by Sharon Montgomery. It's pretty gorgeous. The collection is broken into 3 sections titled Sweet, Movement, and Grief, though I think these notions travel between the sections as well. Poems here are written from lakes and rivers, but also from cities, farmland, forest fire, because all these elements of the natural world and human involve and influence our watersheds. So let me introduce you to Jenna Butler. Jenna Butler is an Albertan poet, essayist, editor, and professor. She is the author of 6, maybe 7 now, books and the recipient of several National Arts Awards. Internationally, her work has been shortlisted for the Salt and Bridport Prizes in the UK and the High Plains Book Awards and Forward Indie Awards in the USA. Jenna teaches creative and environmental writing at Red Deer College and lives on an off-grid organic farm. And this is her forthcoming book, Reverie. Please welcome Jenna.
So I'm going to read a poem, an excerpt from a poem, Song to the Boreal, and this is the piece from Sweetwater. Again, thank you, Yvonne, for the opportunity to appear in that collection. So this piece comes from also my collection, Magnetic North, and it's based on a trip I took to Svalbard on board a tall ship. And when I came home to the boreal forest in northern Alberta, I was seeing a lot of connections between climate change in the Arctic and the glaciers calving and what was happening to the boreal forests burning all around me as everything warmed. Mid-June, and the boreal kindles like tallow. No toxins across the water. Here one players on the frontage grass and everything goes up. Black spruce rickety with gum. Each summer, a little longer, a little hotter, and still the quads idling out in the muskeg, stink of gas in the deep woods. Used to be fork lightning, now it's Friday night bush parties, chainsaw sparks. I come home from water and ice to a forest spitting resin like midsummer rain. We watch the news, the wind. There's not enough water in Svalbard to put this forest out if it burns. Peat fires know to go underground, run out along the roots, a whole stand burning slowly from beneath. Our first winter on the land, we lit a bonfire in a space of cleared ground to keep warm. Diamond willow, balsam poplar, everything we felled went into the flames, a long, slow burn. Potatoes in the coals and they would roast all day, pried from charred skins at twilight as the deep cold came down. We learned that fire in the north is subterranean, that even the snow refused our circle, its heap of ash. Dug out the ground a week later and it was hot enough that you couldn't hold the soil without gloves. It smelt of roots and hair, a living, feral scent. Those are the fires you learn to fear, the ground going out from under your feet in an instant. Nothing left but cinders grasshoppering into the dark.
Thanks for the poem, Jenna. So next we have Tanis MacDonald. Tanis is the author of several books of poetry and essays, most recently Mobile, there it is, with Book Hug, in addition to Out of Line, Daring to be an Artist Outside the Big City. She is the co-editor of Gush, Menstrual Manifestos for Our Time, and the editor of Speaking of Power, The Poetry of D. Brandt. Her book, The Daughter's Way, was a finalist for the Gabriel Roy Prize in Canadian Literary Criticism. Tanis has taught at the Sage Hill Writing Experience and in 2017 won the Robert Croach Teaching Award from the Canadian Creative Writers and Writing Programs. Originally from Winnipeg, she teaches Canadian literature and creative writing at Wilfrid Laurier University in Waterloo. So we have kept her up late as well. Please welcome Tanis.
Thanks very much, Yvonne. Yeah, I'm coming to you from the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, Arawandurun, and the Haudenosaunee peoples on the Haldeman Treaty near Waterloo and Kitchener, Ontario. And that references the poem I'm going to read from Sweetwater. And I want to thank Yvonne for her leadership in publishing these two and a rumored third anthology about water. So I'm at the Grand River Watershed and I live very close to a reservoir. So this is called A Feminist Guide to Reservoirs. And some people may hear my homage to Dion Brand that is contained in this poem. You want to, but can't, scream at how we're hated. But you recall that herons stand all day in detention ponds, keep their distance from other herons. This is not meant to soothe, but to say, herons know what you're missing. You've long suspected capitalism hates women and geese crave stormwater and gender parity. You walk how you can when you walk by the reservoir. Occupy everything, Dion Brand said. And the gymnasium of students rose as one body to their feet, roaring, and you thought you had made it, battered but alive, to the future. The river is charged with all the artificial sweeteners that pass unaltered through our bodies. Down the sewers and into the river, molecules of coke slipping down the geological staircase into Lake Erie. Haldeman Tract, 6 miles on both sides of the river, 6 nations land, and every white person you know acts so surprised. Oh, I didn't know. 1 in 3 women will be sexually assaulted. I was never taught that. No one is until they are. A creek can whisper through a city, a rumor of water that is water. You cannot get your breath. Someone spray paints, I am broken, on the bunker over the culvert where you watch mallards emerge like a magic act. You're not, or not any more than usual. The gates open and the river roars down from where it's been reserved, disguised as a pond all summer. This is not meant to soothe.
Thank you. Thanks, Tanis. Awesome. I love it. Tanis's poem also nicely leads us from water into women and walking. So the 3 of us will now blend our voices to read from my current manuscript in progress, which is called Death of Persephone, A Murder Mystery, from Mobile, and from Jenna and my collaborative work titled, from a published piece titled Field Notes from Assisi. So one of the big subjects that comes up is desire paths. And desire paths are the shortcuts, the non-landscaped routes we take like a path across a field. Metaphorically here, they speak also to where women want to go and what hinders them in their path. Tanis's book Mobile touches on the notions of desire paths and women walking, as does my current project, Death of Persephone. I've set Persephone in a modern day city and all that hinders her in following her paths of desire. So 3 women, 3 voices, and a multitude of poems. And the first poem is from Death of Persephone called The City One. On city streets, rain, and on the great oak's leaves.
Rain in our open mouths.
What is a city?
A woman walks, her feet pound the laneways and avenues of a great city.
From Old Town to the mountain, the city lives, a scaled and curled beast.
Another woman loses her shoe running.
Another catches a note of song.
While another graffitis a mural on a wall.
What is a city?
It is a river that rises from the dark earth.
It is traffic lights, headlights, dark. It is darkness.
Fear is a city in every woman.
Language fills the pores. Ville, herbs, poli.
The city has an eye.
And the city
Has a million eyes. On to Tanis.
Thanks. I'm going to read a poem from Mobile, which Yvonne's already showed you, but this is the opening poem in Mobile, and it's called Flâneuserie, and many of you have probably heard about the flaneur and flânerie, the art of walking, particularly in the city, the art of walking and observing, but flânerie assumes a male walker, and I wanted to write a poem about the art of walking while female, so it's Flâneuserie. And I'm joined in this by Jenna and Yvonne. We walk.
We walk.
The city unfolds its blocks. The sidewalk loves our feet to a pulp, our blisters watery as eyes, but better that a woman should walk.
we walk.
These streets then make one own vicinity, a cattle chute, a gauntlet to be run.
We walk.
Better that women should be seen and not hurt. If thine eye offend thee, Baudelaire,
We walk.
pluck it out. My corns elude legibility, street haunter following the thicks and thins.
We walk.
Empty lots, ellipses, scare optics, knowledge. We were just walking,
Walking.
officer. We were following desire lines. Flâneuse-moi, c'est le nom propre, allons-y, le mot juste, l'amour justesse, l'âme and parole me.
We walk.
Hey, I'm walking here. Fleuve, Philomela. Reversed bird, swallow as nightingale, nightingale as lark, as starling.
Walking.
Invasive species of 1,000 tongues, river, the city. Reverse the sieve order and see what flows. Not gonna lie,
Walking.
walking's dicey, but so's the bus. How spatial are practices, how mobile are units. Where will we walk?
We walk.
Even the tallest letters in the world crumble. And I'm going to read, thank you. That's echoing there.
Yeah.
The next poem is from the end of Mobile, and we won't be so echoey in this one. We're going to read alternate verses. It's called Scold Bridles, and I was inspired to write this after the idea of the 18th century invention of the scold's bridle. And I don't know if anyone knows about this, but it was literally an invention to stop women from talking. It fitted tightly around the head, and there was a suppressing piece that pushed down on her tongue so she couldn't speak. And this was also used in the Americas for enslaved peoples, for anyone who needed their speech suppressed in order to keep the status quo in charge. So this is called the Scold Bridles, and it's reversal of that. It's a woman with lots to say. It's me. I'm always a woman with lots to say. I am the most interested person in the world, and that's not just my curiosity talking. Pleasure is its own prescription, and you should never trust a drunk man doing an imitation of his father. Humble bragging that you never finish books is neither humble nor a brag. Though you're right to be suspicious, a fool can always find another fool to admire him. When we name animals after celebrities, we disappoint both.
Bit and bridle at half-truths. Archive this. Now burn it. Now bury it. Now say you don't know what I'm talking about. That's history and another fine dress you've gotten us into. A palindrome will prove the way is yaw. The quiet to which we're accustomed has now become a roar. Insomnia takes practice due to the kinetic energy of the falling abject. Nest cup, next up. I never met a rhetoric of excess I didn't like.
When you traffic in falsehoods, rev the engines. Leave shoes all over the house for fast escapes. Luna moths are not lunar modules, though the personal is heretical. Ephemera merges with dementia. I'll never be your beast of burden of proof. It only hurts when I scoff.
But if there were two of me, who would you ignore first? When the natural order of things fucks us all, it's time to re-chaos the phylum. Yeah, it's none of your business what the dog is thinking, and you are not at all who we're cooking for.
Those who can say ranger station without thinking of Yogi Bear will be asked to recuse themselves. When she met Mr. Rogers, Coco called his cufflinks flowers. Wolves have kind eyes and intelligent parasites. The power ballad takes no prisoners, so we're gonna crow this place wide open. Please press your soul flat enough to slide beneath the door.
A weed blows in the field of inquiry. Ideas are an invasive species, and dumbfounding is a tricky business, thank you very much. Where is the choice coming from? No revolution begins without a bender. Irony, now fortified with real iron. I like a little lemon in my veins.
Thank you, Tanis.
Thank you to Jenna and to Yvonne. I mean, it's one thing, I'm very used to reading that alone, and it's much funner to read with other people.
Yeah,
I'm laughing at my own lines coming out of other people's mouths.
All right, so we're gonna shift gears a little bit. Jenna and I are now gonna read from field notes from Assisi, and Jenna's gonna introduce the project, and I'm gonna talk about the poems a little bit.
Sure. So Field Notes from Assisi came out of a residency and a conference, but primarily a residency that Yvonne and I undertook in Assisi, Italy last year. So over 2 weeks, we were walking the old city and talking together and thinking about the freedom with which women navigate the world, or the lack of freedom, our intentions and our desire paths, and what blocks those intentions. And out of that came this project. So it's a bit dialogic, and then part of the project was writing these poems. So over to you, Yvonne.
Great. So, of course, Jenna and I were in Italy just over a year ago. So as we walked and we were thinking about, setting those desire paths and the effect of that on the environment. And then suddenly those paths all got shut off, partly due to the environment, partly due to humans' interactions with the larger world, which has been interesting for our project as well. So again, Jenna and I have ghazals here co-written. One of the nice things about the forum is that the poet is often speaking to themselves, and so it appealed as a forum for a dialogue between Jenna and I. We had colored scraps of paper from probably the conference, I think, and we'd each write a couplet and trade paper, and then write the next couplet and trade paper back, and so that's how these were written. Gazelles are a perfect match for trail making and following. In each couplet, we are offering one another a way marker. This is what I'm thinking, one of us writes, and the other follows, and then sees the next object ahead on the path.
1. Desire paths etch Atlantic sky, twin contrails heading west.
To fly is to follow a path written and fast fading, the way laughter echoes.
Under our hands, wax paper, oil pastel, the etch and trace of centuries.
Our eyes trace paths, stone archways now filled in, electric wires that descend.
Time, too, a kind of road, chasing in on itself, looping, vulpine.
2. Changing perspective, window, wall, archway. At home, I circumnavigate a field. Sky falls away.
The way sound clambers these laneways, their rose stone walls.
Where is that bell ringing from? Those bells. Dogs bark, child's wail, cutlery thrown to a tile floor.
Windows shuttered like eyes against the rain. Evening, houses fold inward.
Yet voices rise, some never quiet, some never sleep. Whatever home is, it beckons, a bell's chime. 3. If every path is a flight away, heat rises. Coo of pigeon, crow's dropped thread of song.
Everywhere the rock doves churring, our voices a threat come from away.
Along paths between olive groves, sudden silence, cicada's brief breath held, we pass.
What clamor, these bells, jester jangling, rust rattling in tower sockets.
Potted plants hooked in precarious stone green this space. We amble slide down rain-dark paths.
4. For every plain, what cost? A rainforest, coastline, species.
Keeping vigil. These pigeons march atop citadel walls. They know what storms humans bring.
The way a deluge strikes, recedes, the way humans strike.
And what's living withdraws, draws in, silenced, this world in our wake.
Pigeons recede, bats, cicadas, evening and the wind's lone breath.
5. Garbage, rusted tin, flattened bottle, dropped tissue. My mom left a trail behind her.
How we mine the past for value, discard the difficult, artifacts that pry at conscience.
Value, a hard word in this commodified world. Heron, flying squirrel, Egert's sunflower, peregrine falcon.
Writing as witness, protest, dirge, our eyes pinned open, our spirits splayed.
There she goes, water drop to river, voice to woman on trail, not picking flowers, not picking debris. Thank you, Jenna. So great to hear them. Yeah. So we're going to end now on one final poem, and we're back to Death of Persephone. And thank you so much, all of you, for listening. And thank you again to Tanis and Jenna for joining me here. Just in case you want to know, Tanis's book Mobile is published by Book Hug and is available through the publisher. Sweetwater is published by Caitlin Press and is available through Caitlin Press or your local bookstore. And Jenna's forthcoming book is published by Woolsack and Wynne and is about bees. Okay, The City 2. A woman walks from monument, from skyscraper, from beneath a mural, from within a station, she walks. A police bell sounds.
What is a city?
She exits through glass doors.
What is a city?
A woman is a city of tunnels, veins.
What is a
organs,
city?
A heart. Desire is a path.
What is a city?
It is a path marked through her the way of childhood memories.
What is a city?
Shown like streetlights in the shape of her knuckle. Tilt
What is a
of
city?
her head, mast of her spine. What is
What
a
is
woman?
a city?
What is a city? A dove on a statue.
What is a city?
A statue rising out of a river. A woman walks.
What is a city?
From skyscrapers to Old Town. Language
What
a
is a city?
corridor she walks through in silence.
What is
pulse
the city?
a question in her mouth.
I'd like to hear more about the origins of the decision to do the anthology. And I'm wondering about any connections you may have with other poets in the US and the rest of the world. I learned about a project that's been going on for 25 years now, the Watersheds Festival in the Bay Area. Any other connections with other poets on this project?
Yeah, so the project started with Refugium while I was the poet laureate. Well, when I applied to be the poet laureate, I said I was gonna protect the ocean. So I set myself a lofty goal there. And so the project started with Refugium, and Caitlin Press was really fantastic and supportive of it. And a couple of the poets in Refugium were like, Yvonne, we can see you doing more of these. And I won't share their names, but here I am. And I wanted to, I guess, I live on the Pacific, so I'm very connected to the Pacific Ocean and was very concerned when all the sea stars started to vanish and they were just melting, which was awful. I thought, well, wouldn't it's water that connects us. We think it's land, and it's land as well, but water connects us. And so I've started on the Pacific, we've done the Watersheds, and the next book will be on the Atlantic. I know of a few, there are American poets in the anthologies. I know of a few different reading series and things in the US that are water-based, I guess, or have water in their titles, but I haven't. And I know there's a new anthology being worked on now focused on animals of the Cascadia bioregion. But other than that, I haven't. I was part of the Cascadia Poetry Festival a few years ago, so met a lot of environmental writers through that, I think.
Well, it's a great achievement. Congratulations.
There is one in the chat about how much we practiced before this reading. We hung out a bit and talked a little bit about once and talked about what we wanted to do with a kind of blend of voices, and you sort of had the pleasure of having those echoey voices in each other's work. Do you two want to say anything?
And we well marked the pages so that it was clear to us while we were reading as well, and we timed ourselves a few times because we didn't want to go over and all of that. And I was worried that we'd hear everyone's voices enough, I guess, or I wanted to make sure.
There is another question actually I see in the chat from Robert Martins. The poetry I heard is deeply political. Any thoughts on where you go from here?
More politics. I'm always writing a cheesed off feminist poem. That's not, I don't see that disappearing quickly.
No.
So more of that. I'm writing a book about, it's exclusively about walking while female. So that's where I am.
Yeah. I think the great thing about bringing the three of us together is we're very much, I think, interested in similar things right now, which is very cool. I think poetry and art is political, and I would never shy away from that.